Give us 30 minutes of your time, and we're going to tell you all you need to know about ADCC and the Craig Jones Invitational as they stand right now on Friday, the 14th of June, as well as a very quick preview of the Polaris grappling show that is happening in the UK on Saturday night. So stay tuned till the end of the episode to get a full rundown of the Polaris show. But first off, we're going to dive in to the ADCC and have a look at the divisions as they currently stand. So, young Callum, can you bring up the page, please?
There we go.
And we're into the ADCC, and we have the male under 66 bracket, which currently has 16 participants. So it is full. Callum, who do you like the look of on that bracket?
Well, I think returning champion Diogo Hayes, Baby Shark, I think he's one of the favourites. I think given the exceptional past year and a half, 2 years that he's had, I think Diego Pato is another big favourite. And then there's some other heavy hitters in the division like Fabricio Andre, Kennedy Maciel, Gabriel Souza, and then some dark horses like Dorian Olivares and some other interesting names that could definitely give some of the higher level guys a good run for their money.
Now, we're not going to give too much away in this episode because, as well as giving everyone who's watching a rundown of both shows as they stand, we are doing a little trial, and if all goes well, we're going to come back with our tier lists for every division in both competitions. And in the tier lists, you will find out who we are going to pick to win every category in the ADCC and the CJI. But just on the 66 division as a whole, I think it has the potential to be the most exciting division that there has been in ADCC history. There are loads of really exciting grapplers who are going to be competing, and it depends how the bracket shakes out, but there are really exciting matches that are just waiting to happen. So fingers crossed we get to see the guys that we want to see go up against each other, shall we say. But more to come on the tier list as to who we think is going to win. Now, moving on, 77. Huge win for the ADCC. They have retained Mika Galvao. So, while there have been some moves from people that had qualified from the ADCC going over to join CJI, Mika Galvao, one of the biggest stars in the sport, recently committed to doing ADCC as part of his quest to win the Super Grand Slam. So, fresh off his victory at the IBJJF Worlds, added to previous wins at the Euros, the Pans, and the Brasileiro, Mika's now going for his, well, let's say, fifth major gold of the year. So I think that's the biggest storyline in that division, and he's the biggest name. But who else are you excited about seeing in the 77 division, Callum?
Yeah, so obviously 66 pretty much unaffected by CJI, as we've spoken about. I don't think some of the 66 guys fancy going up to that weight and fighting some of the guys that are cutting down from 88. 77, so like you say, got Mika, got Cade. They're the two best guys in that division anyway, so they've not left. However, it has taken a bit of a knock, this division. We've spoken about quite a few of the bigger names moving over to CJI, coming out of the 77 division, but still some good names. So Cade, obviously returning champion, Mika as well, probably going to meet in the final if they're opposite ends of the bracket again. As well, we've got former champions like JT Torres, and I see Dabi Ramos has gotten an invite. Mateusz Szczecinski has signed up for ADCC. He's always really exciting to watch. I think on his day he can submit pretty much any of these guys in this division. Elijah Dorsey, EJ Barch, there's some good names in this division for sure, but I think it's definitely taken a bit of a hit from CJI.
Although, perhaps the biggest free agent that was out there who wasn't associated with either event but then committed to one of them was Mateusz Szczecinski, who didn't qualify for the ADCC, so was out there waiting to be snapped up. I thought he might jump in to do CJI and chase the $1 million prize in the under 80 category, but he has committed to doing the ADCC, and he is a huge threat in that division. Where he will fit into the Jiu-Jitsu Oracle's tier list remains to be seen, but great signing for the ADCC. Is there anything else with the under 77 category you want to mention?
Not too much, no. Obviously, 14 out of the 16 guys, so they've got a couple guys left to fill out that division. Be interesting to see who they snatch up. As well, there might be some guys that will jump over to CJI as things progress, but right now, still looking like a really solid, exciting division, even though it has taken a little bit of a hit.
Just on the potential of jumping, is it getting too late to make the jump based upon guys having to decide what weight they'll be at, getting used to the rule sets they'll compete at, etc.? It's getting a bit fine, I think, if you're going to make the switch. I think like now pretty much is the last time that you could jump if you want to.
Yeah, I think what makes that more difficult is we don't really know when people decided to jump over. So we've had some guys from this division move very recently, which we'll speak about when we go on to talking about the guys in the CGI. But we don't know whether they messaged Craig the day it was announced and he's only kind of leaked this information out now, or these guys have decided maybe today that they're going to jump over and now they've put it out. We really don't know when they decided. So yeah, this might have been a decision they made a while ago and they've kind of been mentally preparing themselves for this, or they might see all these guys jumping over. Maybe they make the decision that the chance at $1 million is going to be better for them than the chance of winning ADCC. So we don't really know when these guys have decided to move over. But yeah, as well as that, I think it's going to obviously be a lot more annoying for ADCC the closer to the competition that guys pull out. It's going to be more of a headache for them. So yeah.
Under 88, one of the other divisions that has a full roster and headed up. On you go.
No, yeah. So 16 out of 16 for this. This was one of the divisions alongside 66 that we didn't think many guys would move over to, because we thought that they would have competed in the over 80 kilo division, and they're obviously quite undersized for that. But we've seen quite a few guys jump in. One of them to the over 80 in William Tackett, but then all the rest of them, I believe, have decided to make the pretty big cut to under 80 kilos, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, so an example of that would be Owen Flanagan.
Yeah, Owen Flanagan, and then a couple others that we'll talk about.
Okay, so division headed up by the returning defending champion, Giancarlo Bedoni.
Yeah, I think everyone on that New Wave team is likely to stick with ADCC, and he's the returning champion, so looking forward to watching him. Aside from him, I think the biggest name in the division, even though he was put out in the first round last time, is Tai Ruotolo. So we'll be excited to see him in this division. Not seeing too much of him against, like, obviously we've seen him against some good people over in one, but over in one, you know, sometimes they get MMA fighters, some guys that aren't really on their level. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Tai in a division full of actual grappling athletes to see how he gets on. But he's another big name in the division. Isaac Michel, really looking forward to watching him. Jacob Couch. Ryan Aitken is a recent one. He's been doing some big things recently, and Wagner Hocha, some good names in this division. It's looking pretty solid despite some of the top guys moving over.
Yes, Ryan Aitken, fresh off very good performance in EBI, the Absolutes, where he managed to win.
Yep.
Yes, I thought so. I just wanted to double check with Callum there. So, yeah, he's on form. And just as you mentioned, Tai before, yes, he lost in the weight class, but it was a very difficult situation for him going up against Atos teammate and coach Josh Hinger, but then bounced back to have a tremendous run in the absolute division. So we've certainly seen his ability to win on the ADCC mat. And both Ty and Cade are capable of beating anyone, because as soon as scrambles happen, their ability to find their way to winning positions, usually submissions, is amazing. So I think, he's definitely one to watch, and will not have to go through the same situation that he faced in the previous ADCC, which I'm sure was very tricky for him. Another one on that, just because you mentioned the new wave guys are all going to do ADCC, essentially because Craig Jones, the organizer of the rival tournament, is B team, and you have the new wave B team rivalry. One name still on this list from B team is Jacob Rodriguez. You've also got Chris Fudgick now in the division, and he's trained a fair bit at B team. But J-Rod, being the brother of Nicky Rod, one of the founders of B team, is a firm B team stalwart. So interesting to see that he's still doing the ADCC, although the B team representation in the under 80 division of CJI is already pretty strong. We'll go into it later, but obviously headed up by Nicky Ryan. So I think probably a wise move for J-Rod to do the ADCC. 88's his weight class, and also it gives his teammates a good run at doing the CJI without running into each other too early and causing a bit of difficulty in the matchmaking, shall we say.
Yeah.
99, division that also has 16 people.
Yeah, fooled out for this division. This one has seen some people move over, but two really, really strong names in this one. Returning champion Kainan Duarte, and then Nicholas Merigali, who medaled in his division and the Absolute last time, but since then has been an absolute tear and has beaten Kainan fairly recently as well. So two huge names from those two. The rest of them got Luke. Luke obviously as well has beaten Kainan recently, but not as... Oh, we've got Cyborg in there as well, Lovato. So a few really big names, and then the others maybe not as well known at the moment. But there's definitely a few names that are very, very strong in that division.
And who's got his invite?
Adam Bradley.
Adam Bradley's got the invite. So Callum, do you want to tell everyone that story just in case they don't know it?
Yeah, so basically at the last American trials, North American trials, Adam Bradley had a really good run, made it to the finals, and he swept his opponent, who was Michael Pixley, I believe.
Yes.
Swept him using deep half, and most people, I think, thought that he should have got the points for that. Held him on his hips for a decent amount of time, didn't get the points, and then subsequently lost the match. So there was a little bit of outrage about that, so everyone happy for Adam that he's gotten the invite after that match that he probably should have won.
And we might get the rematch.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
So one other thing that I'm just considering right now. I'm guessing no, because Merigali is 13, but I was just wondering if this was the seeding having the champions at number 1, but I don't actually think it is, because Merigali at 13 would be a bit silly. So that was a stupid thought from me, but digress.
No, that's okay. It's good to have highlighted that, just in case people are looking through it and thinking, that might be how the seeds play out. So we've got the list, and it looks to be champion at the top, and then trials winners, and then invitees.
Yeah,
and then
it's to be in chronological order, the European first trials. I think they're the first trials of the year, so the number 2 on the list will be the first Euro trials winner. I think that seems to be how they're doing it instead, and then the invitees last.
Yes, I believe so. Now, over 99.
So over 99, we now know we've got Gordon Ryan heading up this division. He won this division last time around. So obviously he is the heavy favourite going into this. Got some other big names in there. Vinny Magalhaes. We know that is a match Gordon Ryan has been gunning for. I believe, is he the last person to beat Gordon Ryan?
I believe that is the case.
Yeah, so I think they were supposed to have a match on Fight Pass Invitational potentially, and I think Vinny was injured. I think that's the one that Nicky Rod stepped up for the last time they had a match on Fight Pass. So potentially that'll be a first round match, because I'm sure Gordon will be very much eager to get that win back. As well in that division, we've got Big Dan, we've got Josh Saunders, who Gordon is going to be facing in the upcoming Who's Number One. Got Mike Perez, who was really impressive at trials, winning the over 99 division, even though he's usually like a 77 guy. Got our good friend Mark McQueen, who we look forward to watching. So pretty solid division overall. And then, of course, Felipe Pena as well. So that's interesting because that's definitely going to be two matches Gordon will be gunning for. He'll be gunning for another match with Felipe and another match with Vinny. So I'm sure he will have some sway on how the divisions are kind of laid out, given he's very close friends with the organizer, Mo. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. Maybe he'll have Vinny first round and then try set it up so he'll have Pena in the second round.
Well, I think he'll get Big Dan.
That's true. I didn't consider that. So yeah, if you have a teammate, if it's two people from the same team in the division, then given you both win the first match, you will face second round. If it's three, then one of the pairs will fight in the first round and then go on to fight the other teammate in the second round. So that is a good point. Maybe Felipe versus Big Dan first round. So if Felipe beats Big Dan, then they'll have that match for Gordon. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But I know for sure Gordon will be wanting matches with those two guys.
Right? Yeah. Like instinctually on the seeds, I would say Gordon 1, Felipe 2. They'd be on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah.
So then you'd have to put Big Dan on the same side of the bracket as Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon could potentially face Vinny first round, Big Dan second round. Not sure about the semi-final and final because they'll come out of Felipe's side of the bracket. But I think we're starting to make some predictions about how Gordon's path looks just right now before we've even seen the bracket fill out. So,
yeah.
Which I think I think there is some obvious matches for Gordon there in terms of how it will shake out. So,
yeah.
Obviously, on you go. Yeah.
Yeah, just this obviously is one of the divisions as well that is not filled out alongside 77. So 14 out of 16 of the competitors. So they've got a couple invites that they need to send out to fill this division up, which I'm sure we'll hear about pretty soon.
Yeah. We've also got Gordon against Josh Saunders on the next Who's Number One event, which we'll be doing a full preview of in the not too distant future. So probably our next show is going to be a wrap-up of the Polaris event and a rundown of the Who's Number One card that looks absolutely amazing. I think you were saying, Cal, probably the best event they've put on in a wee while.
Yeah, the last one, that kind of scale, was the one that they did for the under 70 and the under 85 kilo titles. It was the one where Gabriel Souza beat Mikey, Cade won the lower division. So that was a great card. But yeah, since then, it's probably the best one I've seen. Got Gordon headlining it. He's a massive name, even though his match potentially won't be the most competitive, but we've got some very competitive other matches with also some very big names. So really good card that will be coming up shortly.
Brilliant. Now, let's move on to the female divisions.
Yeah.
And some interesting names and also some potential for some very exciting matches, particularly on both those counts in the female under 55 division. So still waiting for one more to make it up to 8, but as it stands, I think that's a pretty interesting 7.
Yeah, very interesting division. Name that stood out to me, which I didn't know about. I don't think you knew about either. I don't think they've announced it. Then there's some information on this website that for some reason they've not pushed on social media, but see, Mackenzie Dern is signed up for this division, which is a massive name given her name value in the sport, previously being a bit of a legend in the sport, and then also her being a UFC fighter. So that makes that division very interesting. I don't know why they've not announced that yet on social media, but that is a huge shake-up to that division, I would say.
Yeah. And I think outside of that, everyone involved in that division could put on exciting matches with each other, however the bracket shakes out.
Yeah, Margot Ciccarelli winning the European trials, so she's going to be interesting to watch, coming out of a really good camp in AOJ, mostly being a gi player, but we saw her using some wrestling and some stuff in the trials, so we'll see how that skill set has continued to develop. Ana Rodriguez, always exciting to watch, really high caliber athlete in the gi usually. Jasmine Hocha has been really exciting the past couple of years. Adele Fornarino, really interesting guard game, solid arm bars, some really interesting attacks. Mackenzie Dern, as we've spoken about. Maisa Bastos, one of the most dominant smaller female athletes, I think. Previously, so what was the weight class for the women previously? It was just under and over 60 kilos, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
That was like extra difficult for her before. I think she'll still be a bit undersized for this weight class. She's usually really dominant in the IBJJF weight classes where there is a bit more room for people to move around, and she's in the smallest division of that. So I think she'll still be a bit undersized for this 50-50 kilo, but knocking 5 kilos off of that will definitely help her a lot. And then we've also got Alex Enriquez as well, and then one more invitee that they've got to hand out.
Okay, now under 65, just a note on this, I would say that had she done the tournament, it would probably have been a division that Fionn Davis was in.
Yeah.
And Fion's doing a super fight on the Craig Jones Invitational against an as yet unnamed opponent. Well, they have a name, but they've not been revealed. So, no Fionn. What do you make of this group of grapplers, Callum?
I think it's still a pretty solid group, despite not having Fionn in it. I think Brianna St. Marie probably going to be the number 1 seed. I think she got to the final against Fionn last time, if I remember correctly. Helena Cravar as well, potentially quite a high seed. I think this will be her first time competing at ADCC, but name value-wise, I think she's right up there with Brianna. Via Mesquita as well, massive name, very good athlete in the gi, and has been pretty good in ADCC events in the past as well. Morgan Black, I think she's beaten Helena before, hasn't she?
Yeah, and then Helena just beat Morgan, I believe.
Yeah.
In a rematch. Yeah.
Amanda Levy, very good. Orly Laverne, she'll be in it as well. And then one that I don't really recognize the name of that has won the second Asian trials, Sula May. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But yeah, she's going to be in there as well. So not familiar with her, but I'm sure she will show a good account of herself at the tournament and we'll become more familiar with her there on out.
I'll have it go. Loventhal.
There we go.
Yeah. You haven't quite mentioned Anna Carolina.
Oh, yeah, I've missed out her. Yeah, so she's in the division as well. Very high level grappler as well. So I think that division is looking pretty solid overall.
Yes. And then let's just have a quick look at the over 65, which still has a couple of slots available.
Yeah, so we've got Amy Campo returning champion from the over 60 division. Obviously, this is a different division now, but also it's like over 60, over 65. So it's going to be the heavier women, but there's maybe some people that have dropped down given the new weight class. Got her, got Nia Blackman, who looked really good in the European trials. We have got Maria Rafato. We have got Elizabeth Mitrovic. Nikki Lloyd Griffiths, who is that Luke's sister? No, she's coming from Asian trials.
I would say the thing that made me think possibly not is she's a Griffiths, and I believe Luke is a Griffith.
Yeah, so Luke is a sister, but I'm saying she's from the Asian trials, so
yeah,
definitely not her. And then we've got Natalie the Jesus as well. So this still has to fill out a little bit. I think as far as the women's weight divisions, this definitely doesn't have quite as much name value yet. Maybe there'll be some big names to drop in. Amy Campo, obviously amazing grappler. I think she's the biggest name in this division so far, but I'm sure there will be some good invitees coming out soon as well.
Yeah, I would say tier list to follow, but Amy looks like the favourite right now.
Yeah.
Then lastly, on the docket, we have a super fight with Gordon Ryan against Yuri Simoes. And we've already mentioned that we think Gordon is likely to win.
Yeah, I think I don't see this being too much different than what we've kind of spoken about with the Who's Number One match. Is not very competitive, which is kind of crazy to say because I think Yuri is a 3-time ADCC champion now. But stylistically, I just feel like he's going to be a much less difficult version of Andre Galvao for Gordon to take on. So really good wrestling, just good at winning in that rule set, hard to get a hold of. But we saw Gordon beating Andre Galvao very dominantly, and I think Yuri is just maybe a not quite as polished or good version as Andre Galvao. So yeah, I don't really see much of a scenario where Yuri comes out on top in this match.
Okay, now let's cross over, if we can, to the CJI.
Okay, so I think they might be lacking a website, but we're just going to have a look on the Instagram. So let's start with this big post, and then we'll look at some of the guys that have been added onto this. So this was put out just a few days ago. There's been a few guys added onto that, but that gives like a decent scope of who's in so far. Then we'll go through the newer names that have been added onto that.
Yeah, I believe under 80 and over 80 are both sitting at 10 competitors right now, and the aim is to get 16 competitors in each bracket, and each winner will receive $1 million. So on my notes, I have a mishmash of names in each category. So I can go through them if you want, or if you want to lead the way and call out some of the names, we can do that. What would you rather do, Callum?
Yeah, I'll let you go through them, and then if they pop up, guys that aren't on this poster, I can have a quick look at pulling them up on the post that they've been put out on so far.
Okay, and we mentioned Fionn as doing a super fight, and there is a second super fight on the card, which is the organizer Craig Jones against Gabi Garcia. And then I believe there's one more super fight still to be revealed. Then in under 80, we have Andrew Tackett, Nicky Ryan, Joseph Chen, Hanato Kinuto, Levi Jones-Leary, Tommy Langaker, Hulk, Owen O'Flanagan, and Mateusz Diniz. Did I get them all?
I believe so. So here we've got Owen's post, Felipe, Max Jimenez, Levi, and Tommy. Tommy being the most recent, that I think was announced either last night or this morning as we record this on Friday.
Now, Max Jimenez is in the over category.
Yep.
Okay. We've got over 80, Max Jimenez, most recent addition, João Gabriel, Victor Hugo, Owen Livesey, Felipe Andrew, Nicky Rod, Luke Rockhold, William Tackett, Mason Fowler, and Roberto Jimenez.
Yep.
How did I do?
I think you got everyone, yeah.
Good. Any standouts in those divisions that you're particularly looking forward to just seeing grapple before we get into, in future podcasts, who we think is going to win?
I think they've got a bunch of really good guys that I'm looking forward to seeing. So the two earliest announcements, Tackett brothers, they're always very exciting to watch. From just action perspective, as well as like the new cutting edge tech. So looking forward to watching them. Joseph Chen, pretty big name value at the moment. Really looking forward to watching him. Nicky Ryan, of course. I think like pretty much everyone on this list I'm really looking forward to seeing. I think the interesting thing will be the weights for both of them. So it'll be interesting to see the guys from 88 kilos like Owen O'Flanagan, Mateusz Diniz, and Hulk, how they deal with that big weight cut and how they perform at that weight class. And then it'll be interesting to see from the over 80 how some of the smaller guys in that weight class are going to deal with some of the huge guys that are there, like Victor Hugo, João Gabriel Rocha, Max Jimenez. Those guys are absolutely massive, probably about 260 pounds. So be interesting to see how some of the lighter guys in that over 80 kilo division deal with them.
Yeah, and I believe I said 10 in each division. I think, counting again now, there's 9 in the under 80.
Yeah.
But no doubt, keep your eyes peeled because there are names getting dropped every day, and I'm sure there'll be some additions in the not too distant future. So, one more event that we've got to look forward to, and that is the Polaris grappling event in the UK. And shout out Polaris, because for everything that's happening in grappling right now, with the Craig Jones tournament coming on the scene, in particular to give the athletes more pay. Polaris is a long-established event that I believe has been paying athletes very well since its inception. So I just wanted to give some credit to Polaris because for all the... Pardon?
Not only that, but I think they put a post out fairly recently about the fact that they will not have athletes on their show that have been recently popped for violating any potential drug rules in a competition. So guys that have been banned from IBJJF or anything like that, I think they made a stand that they will not have those guys on their show as well. So that's pretty cool also.
Okay, now let's just deal with the change to the main event first.
So we had a very exciting match between Owen Livesey and ex-UFC fighter Yoel Romero. I think everyone was really looking forward to that match. Yoel having a silver wrestling in the Olympics, silver medal, in the Olympics for wrestling, and being one of the fan favourites in the UFC. Would have been a really interesting stylistic matchup, but he has had to pull out, I believe, because of storms coming from wherever he was coming from and delays in flight, so he wouldn't have been able to make it. So we have seen him pull out, and his opponent, who I'm not going to lie, I had not heard of previously, Baysangur, I believe is how you pronounce his name, from Kazakhstan, I think.
Yeah, 10-0 as an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
But I am so familiar with his work. One thing I'll say is it doesn't really matter who's on the mat with Owen. Owen's going to go out to put on a show and try and send someone into orbit. So if this guy comes and he is up for moving around and trying to throw, then it will be an exciting match. Just doesn't quite have the name value of the match that was previously advertised, but could yet be an absolute banger.
Yeah. Obviously not the same name value, but very high level of grappling over in Kazakhstan, and looking at his highlights, there are some cool foot sweeps and wrestling exchanges, so I'm sure you'll definitely be able to hang on the feet with Owen at the very least, and we'll see some cool exchanges.
All right, so let's talk about the rest of the main card, Callum. Run us through some of the matches and who you think is going to come out on top if you can.
Yeah, so the best or most exciting match for me in this is going to be Mateusz Szczecinski versus Levi Jones-Leary. So Levi, he did not win that tournament that they just recently did. He lost in the final to PJ Barch. PJ Barch, I don't know why he's not doing this match, but I'm not complaining about it whatsoever because I really like this match. So I think that tournament was to set up a match with Mateusz, who was the belt holder in Polaris for the welterweight division, I believe. Levi got the final, had a really good performance, so he's going to be doing this match with Mateusz Szczecinski. Very interesting match because Levi, obviously known for his better bolos, Mateusz, one of the best bolo guys as well, but also one of the scariest leg lockers in the world. So if we see them in some sort of double pool situation, it could end very quickly with a leg lock or someone getting to the back. I think I saw Lachlan, who is at the moment Levi's coach and training partner, say that we shouldn't be surprised to see Levi come up and try to pass Mateusz a little bit. So be interested to see that aspect of his game. But I'm just really looking forward to seeing some of the exchanges of leg entanglements and back takes.
Okay. Can you do me a favour and just scroll past the Scramble advert with the guy who's in the army hat shouting? Getting that on replay.
Yeah, I don't know how to get that out of the way. There we go. I've covered it.
There we go. Brilliant. Right. Now, okay. Yes, Mateusz against Levi should be a really interesting match, particularly because both very much like hunting the back.
Yep.
But Mateusz very much likes hunting the foot. So could that pose a problem for Levi as he tries to take Mateusz's back?
Definitely. So, yeah, bearing bolos and leg locks, I think they're very similar. You can be in a berimbolo position and just move their feet and your feet in a couple different ways, and now you're in a leg lock situation, or vice versa. So I think if Levi is trying to take Mateusz's back, unless it's like a kind of light and fast wedge and back take, then there will be an opportunity for Mateusz to get a hold of Levi's ankle, which will be very difficult to deal with. We've seen Levi be submitted with leg locks before. I believe Mika Gavau submitted him with a straight ankle lock in the gi, if I am correct in saying that. And yeah, Mateusz, one of the best leg lockers in the world. So regardless of whether you've been leg locked or not before, I think if Mateusz gets a hold of your leg, you're in serious danger. So that'll be very exciting to watch.
Okay, let's go through some of the other matches quickly then, Callum, if we can.
Yeah, so another big name in this, we've got Helena Krevar versus Jessica Tortilla. I hadn't heard of her before. She is a brown belt coming out of Finland, I believe. She's had some good wins on the IBJJF circuit, some podiums at IBJJF Europeans, and I believe here she got silver at the ADCC trials in one of the women's divisions as well. So obviously very accomplished grappler. Definitely doesn't have the name of Helena, so we'll see how she stacks up in that match.
Okay. Someone you know quite well is competing?
Yeah, we've got Ellis Younger versus Sam Quinn, so that'll be good to see. Ellis, one of my favourite guys in the UK scene. I've had him over a couple times for seminars, trained with him before. Really good grappler. He has not competed for maybe all of this year, or definitely for a while. I think he had a back injury. Judging by the clips on his Instagram, though, he seems to be doing all right with the kind of crazy scrambles he's got going on in that. So we're looking forward to watching that. He's got a very well-rounded game. Sam Quinn, I think, is known for his leg locks, another really good black belt in the UK scene, so that will be an exciting match to watch for sure.
Yeah. Now we've got a fellow Scotsman on the card.
Yeah, so Stevie Ray, ex-UFC fighter, versus another guy on the UK scene who's very good, Jed Hugh. So this will be interesting. We've seen Jed against another Scottish MMA fighter, whose name is slipping my mind.
Paul Craig.
Yeah, Paul Craig, there we go. I think that ended pretty quickly. I think Jed got into his legs within about 20 seconds and submitted him. So Stevie Ray obviously a bit lighter than Paul Craig. However, I think Stevie is quite well versed in the legs. So I think if it goes there, potentially we could see him defend a bit better than Paul Craig. We've seen him heel hook Paddy Pimblett, and then I think he got a heel hook victory on one of the recent grapple fests as well against Shane Curtis. So he's definitely well versed in the leg locks. I think Jed's definitely a favourite in this match. Bit more skilled overall, but Stevie's got that physicality from MMA, and he is very well versed wherever it goes. So be looking forward to seeing how that match goes.
And if you can, the last match on the main card inside 1 minute, please.
Yeah, so we've got Santiri Ilias, who has won the trials twice now and competed at ADCC before, versus trials silver medalist Ben Bennett, who had an amazing performance at the last European trials. He submitted everyone up until his last match that he lost to Taylor Pierman via leg lock. So that'll be an exciting match to watch. Kind of positional game of Santiri crushing top pressure versus the diverse submission game of Ben Bennett. So that'll be a very exciting match as well.
Brilliant. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll be back soon with a full rundown of the Polaris card and a preview of what looks to be an amazing Who's Number One event.